The goal of the Beyond Elasticity project is to understand the mechanism that control the propagation of magma through the Earth's crust. So there are some models, very classic models, that assume that magma propagates along dykes, and dykes are assumed to be fractures. So magma propagates along fractures. And in these models, the crustal rocks are assumed and considered to behave only in an elastic manner. But we start collecting geological observations that suggest instead that rocks can also behave very inelastically during the propagation of the magma. And that can completely affect the dynamics of magma propagation. But these inelastic processes are not really understood, and the goal of this Beyond Elasticity project is to understand the mechanism beyond the elastic deformation of the rocks, to try to quantify how inelastic deformation of the crustal rocks can accommodate and control the propagation of the magma.
Sarek is perfect to study inelastic response of the host rock because it's an area that contains a lot of dykes, and the dykes intruded into the middle crust about 600 million years ago. But somehow it's very, very nicely preserved through geological history. So we can actually walk up to the rocks and we can touch them and we can look at them and ask them all the questions about how they deform basically. And what we see is that these dykes intruded into sedimentary basin that was at the time when the dykes were in place really, really hot. So we do see a lot of inelastic processes surrounding the dykes that we think occur during the dike emplacement.
Well, first of all, Sarek is a mountain range which is pretty remote. Yeah? We are located here approximately 25 kilometers away from the nearest road. So we are actually dependent on a helicopter to carry our stuff here and all the rock samples back again. And then, I mean, as I said, it's a high alpine terrain. The highest mountain peaks of Sweden are surrounding us. There are glaciers and weather can change really quickly. So we also have to be prepared to not being picked up of the helicopter and stay some days longer out here. Mm-hmm. And then the most stunning outcrops, they are located, of course, up close to the mountain tops in near vertical walls, which are not so easy to approach. So yeah, one has to bring some skills in order to be able to really be able to touch the rocks and get the observations and rock samples that we want.